I do wish to talk a little bit about your involvement in different organizations as well, especially as we spoke about you in the introduction. You are a part of the Identifinders International, and you were also a co-founder for the DNA Dope project. So, do you mind getting a little bit into those organizations and what is the main purpose and the goal for those organizations, and how do you play a part in those?
Yeah, I'm glad to. Identifinders, we founded that in 2000, I think 11 or 12. And originally I had been doing other forensic work, but we got involved in military identifications, and they kind of required us to have more of a formal, we had to change our company to suit what they wanted, let's put it that way. So Identifinders really was started out doing that kind of work. But it evolved, into the more cold case work. In 2011, I approached the Seattle Police Department about an idea about using genealogy to solve their cold cases. And that was Sarah Yarborough case. It was a 1991 murder of a high school student in Federal Way outside of Seattle. So I happened to be in Seattle for another genealogy meeting, and I went a day early thinking I'll go talk to the police department with my new idea. So I went there, and, let's say I got a very poor reception. It was, they didn't exactly laugh at me, but they were really the detectives were not really with it. They were really kind of bothered that they had to come to this meeting with this little old lady, having this brilliant idea. Well, there was a woman in the meeting named Jody Sass, who was a DNA analyst for the Washington State Crime Lab, I believe, at the time. And she understood, because I was talking about using Y DNA to get a last name. And the markers that the genealogists used were the same as the markers that the law enforcement used. So I told her, all you have to do is send me a PDF of the Y profile, and I could do whatever I need to do. Well, the detectives didn't quite get that, but Jody Sass did. And then she said, well, we have a case we're working on a lot, and if the detectives come back to me again, I'll give them your contact information. And that was the Sarah Yarborough case. The detectives did come back to me. We did the Y DNA. That went, I want to say that was so weird, because this is 2011 I'm talking about. We came up with the name Fuller, and the matches, the genealogist who matched Mr. X, let's say, they were all descended from a Robert Fuller who was in Massachusetts in the 1600s. So thinking back, this is common today, but here we are in 2011 with the detectives saying, we can't arrest somebody because they weren't on the Mayflower. We can't, I don't know, you're linking him to somebody in the 1600s, and the guy was not on the Mayflower. He was related to the Mayflower Fullers. And they said, we don't know what to do, and except try and put it in the newspaper. Well, the lead went cold. We did look in a bunch of Fullers in the area. Lead went cold. But then when SNP testing started to gain interest, I followed the technology from 2011 to 2019 until this technology was there to solve it. I tried SNP testing like 5 or 6 times, but it wasn't there. It just wasn't there yet. So that started really, I guess, the big Identifinders kickoff there, not knowing it would be that big. And then I solved the first case using genetic genealogy in 2015. That was the Phoenix Canal murders, where I gave the name Miller based on Y DNA match. And that was Brian Patrick Miller. That narrowed the number of suspects from 2,000 to just 5.
Oh,
and so it was pretty quick. They saw Miller that really matched the psychological profile. And so they did their homework. And yeah, Brian Patrick Miller's DNA matched the crime scene DNA. And he's on trial right now. It's a death penalty trial. So that was like, Identifinders was that development. It was very difficult because the genealogy world, really bullied me and hated me and ostracized me for using data, their data, public data, for a cold case and helping the police out. And they went berserk on that, but it's public data, public data. So I stayed under the radar. And then, Margaret contacted me in 2017 about this idea about SNP testing. And then, so that was, she didn't want to do violent crimes because she was afraid of the backlash from the genealogy community. Because as I said, GEDmatch is built by genealogists for genealogists. And she was afraid that if there was a real big negative reaction, that would be taken away. So we didn't really, we had decided to do just the unidentified human remains. And we started on a couple of cases that way. And meanwhile, Barbara Ray and the SAC DA people were moving forward with the Golden State Killer. That was separate effort. We didn't know about that, but it all happened about the same time. There was a kind of a weird thing that happened, that Sarah Yarbrough had a classmate named Fuller, and she was one of 5 daughters of a man named William Fuller. So he became a person of interest because of his name. Now he gave his DNA. He was not the killer. CODIS proved he was not the father of the killer. However, his Y DNA matched the killer's. So he was some kind of cousin, but Y DNA doesn't tell you what kind of cousin. All it tells you is there's a male line connection. And so he was, we deduced he was a descendant of Robert Fuller as well, but where they connected, you can't tell. It could have been 10th cousins. Now we knew it wasn't his brother, his father, his immediate family were very small. So it had to be a little bit further back at least, but it could have been Robert Fuller himself. We didn't know, but he wasn't the killer.
Wow.
So we had the genie, we didn't know who this guy was. We had a possible last name. We had a cousin of his along the male line, and we had his genealogy going back to the 1600s, and we still didn't know who he was.
Is it still a cold case?
No, because as SNP testing developed,
Right.
we kept trying. Finally, 2019, we nailed it. And his name was not Fuller. His grandfather was adopted.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my.
The name was Nicholas. His grandfather was on the orphan train in 1910, where they collected the orphans in New York and they put them on trains and they sent them to the Midwest. The train would stop, kids got off the train, families picked out the ones they wanted. The rest of the kids got on the train and off to the next stop.
Damn.
Oh, my.